Hi everyone, this is Yvonne Davis and David Steele. We're accredited facilitators with the Rocky Mountain Compassionate Communication Network. And you have joined us for Unleash Your Creativity, a blending of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron and Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. So today, well, we've been talking about time management this week in week 8. And so David brought up a very important question, and maybe you can just like quickly summarize, like condense that question since we had it at the end of the last video.
Okay. So you're about to launch an Indiegogo campaign. For the campaign to be successful, it's going to require time and attention. How? Where is that time going to come from? What is it? Because right now your life is already so full.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of making deliberate decisions and having an internal locus of control, when you launch that campaign, what is it that you're doing now that you're not going to do? Or is there an opportune time in your schedule when there's some shifting, when it's the most auspicious time to launch the campaign? So that is, it gets into that decision-making, that deliberation stuff, and also that coming to grips with the reality of what it takes to bring something in a manifestation from our imagination where it's all complete and whole and easy because you don't have to have any constraints by the laws of physics or time. And now you're rolling it out into time where the laws of physics apply. So what's the timing look like?
Okay. The reason I couldn't just give you a simple answer to that at the end of the last video is because I am struggling with time management itself.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh. If you'd given me a simple answer, I would have been disappointed because I know it's a big question.
Yeah. So, I guess it might be helpful if I just start by talking about where my time goes right now. So, I don't know, what's the most helpful thing? Would it be helpful for me to just start with when I wake up in the morning, or what's the most efficient way for me to talk about where my time goes right now?
Let me check in. I think the most efficient way is to talk in kind of chunks. There's a certain amount of time devoted to work. There's a certain amount of time. You listed things: hygiene, work, the artist's way, whatever other. Okay. And just look at it rather than, if we get lost in the detail, if I do this, then this is this, the focus will become too granular. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'll just start with the Monday through Friday schedule since that's the most routine. I set my alarm for 6:30, and then I need to leave the house by 8. So that hour and a half is devoted to getting ready to leave the house. Then I drive to work, and that takes about a half an hour. So I start work at 8:30, and then I work for 4 hours. I take an hour-long lunch break, and then I work for another 4 hours. Then I have the half-hour commute again.
So you get home at what time?
That would be 6 p.m.
Okay.
Okay.
So you leave the house at 8 and you get home at 6.
Yeah. So that chunk of time is devoted to working at the law firm in order to have money to pay my bills. Okay. So then in the evening, there are 4 other things that I devote my time to primarily. One is the MFA that I'm in. I am working on an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And so that obviously takes time. And my work with RMCCN, right now I'm teaching NVC fundamentals with David and Ken Rosebeer, and that's on Wednesday nights. And then also on Monday we have our board meeting. So and then do we have FPG, that's Facilitators Practice Group, is that 2 Mondays a month?
Yes.
Okay, so that would take up 3 Mondays. So the Mondays are pretty much done. Wednesdays are done. Tuesdays I have available. Thursdays I do the conference call for this program, Unleash Your Creativity. So that takes up Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that leaves Tuesdays and Fridays to do homework, okay? So that's the MFA, the Artist's Way, RMCC and an NVC, and have to work to pay bills. And that leaves one other thing that's been a high priority for me, which is building my YouTube channel, because I'm also doing some political tarot astrology readings. And I'm going to actually put the link in the description box below for anyone who might be curious about that other work that I've been doing. And I would say that's the bulk of it, other than just the basic, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to shower, things like that.
So Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which are already pretty full, do you get any homework done those days?
Yes, I'm able, because of the fact that the way this program is structured, it's called a low residency MFA, which means I spend 2 weeks a year on campus in the summer, and that's a very intensive 2 weeks. The rest of the year, in my fall semester and my spring semester, it's online. I have 2 online classes in the fall, 2 online classes in the spring, and because that means that, for example, if there's something due on Sunday, it's usually a writing assignment. That's all I do on Sunday, is make sure I get that done, because the deadline is midnight on Sunday. The other deadline is midnight on Wednesday, but since Wednesday is taken up by NVC fundamentals, that means Tuesday night becomes my deadline. And then the other deadline is Saturday at midnight. So usually that gets done on Friday night, or anything that hasn't been done is left for Saturday. So the way I'm working the MFA program, because it's self-paced, but it does have deadlines, three deadlines during the week, I'm always making sure I'm planning out my work in order to get it done by those deadlines. So that's how I do the MFA.
Okay, and what's your weekend?
So other than the MFA, and we do some of our Artist's Way videos on the weekend, and the other thing, and I'm doing some of my political tarot astrology videos on the weekend, and I'm hoping to do the bulk of, I've been building my Indiegogo campaign, but I'm hoping to do the bulk of the finishing up this weekend and then launch it on March 1st. So, so that's the current plan.
So March 1st, that's coming up in just a few days. How much time will you have to devote to it once it's launched? And I'm going on an assumption that an Indiegogo campaign, you need to touch it every day.
Okay.
You need to do something on it every day.
Yeah, that I can definitely do. The nice thing about the job that I have is that I have access to a computer and internet. So certainly during my lunch hour, I virtually never leave the office, just because for me, the amount of time and gas it would take to get in my car, drive somewhere, drive back, doesn't make sense, just because,
right,
I need to compress time.
Right.
So I sit at my computer during my lunch break, and I'm perfectly happy with that, because I enjoy the work that, this creative work that happens to be internet based. So so that's one thing I do, is I dedicate that hour during my lunch to getting some of that work done.
Right.
So I know I can touch in with it. I'm sure I could touch in with it at least once a day.
And how long do you foresee? Well, based on when I did my campaign, there were days I put in 4 or 5 hours on it, and other days I put in 45 minutes. And so in terms of blocking out time, I'm just not, I'm playing the skeptic. I'm just not convinced that you can add it into what you're already doing without decreasing something else that you are doing, or wait for this round of the Artist's Way to be done, which is still puts you into April for launch, which is past when you want to do it. So, you know, what that you're doing now, can you cut back on if you need to?
Okay. Well, the first thought that comes to mind when you ask that question is that this is actually project management, which I think is sort of like under the umbrella of time management, because time management is just how we manage all of our time, whereas project management is how are you going to manage this specific project. And one of the questions about that project management might be, where does it fit into the overall time management? So where you're asking me, where are you going to cut back in order to make time for this particular project?
Right.
And how much time will this project take? So I would say I'm on spring break this week, so that's good because this is the week I'm launching. So once the semester picks up again after that week, then I won't be able to take any time away from the UFA. The NVC fundamentals workshop, we only have 2 weeks left, so that's this week during my spring break, and then next week. And even though it's only 1 night a week, that means that my entire Wednesday is full from the time I go to work until I go straight from work to the class. That it's an hour-long commute. The class I usually don't leave until almost 10 p.m. and then get home and have to go to bed right away in order to get an 8-hour sleep. So, but that's huge, you know, having a whole night free, getting home at 6 p.m. and having that whole night free. That's almost 4 hours worth of work that I can get done.
Okay.
Okay, wait, let me finish. The Artist's Way, we're only, since we're finishing up week 8 now, we're only 2/3 of the way done.
Right.
We've still got 4 weeks left of that.
Right.
And that's been pretty time consuming, I have to say. So so that's one of the things, you know, sometimes it's like David said, he got this Edgar Cayce reading, and the entity conveyed to him a message, which was, you need to learn to know the difference between what you're just going to fantasize about because it's pleasurable to fantasize about it, and what you're actually going to bring into physical manifestation in the space-time continuum. And when I got the idea to do the Artist's Way, it was very much in that visionary field where all things are possible and there are no limitations. And now that we're 2/3 of the way into it, we have a concept of what it actually takes to do something like this. And it's been a major commitment.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed it. I don't have any regrets, and I intend to follow through on this unbending intent to the very end. But I will have more awareness before I commit myself to something like this again in the future. And that's been a very important lesson. So, and I can't cut back on the work because, you know, it just meets my needs to pay my bills, and I need that. The other area was the continuing to build my YouTube channel, and I've really been enjoying these political tarot astrology readings that I've been doing. But I admit that they take a lot of time, because it's not just, you know, like 20 to 30 minutes, whatever, for the video itself. I have to spend a lot of time doing research, studying the charts, deciding what I'm going to say on the video. So that's been very time consuming. It's been very rewarding. And the other thing I want to consider is that we are in the midst of an incredible historical unfolding. I don't think, in my opinion, what's happening now, yes, although we have had some pretty trying times in at least in my lifetime, with Nixon and Reagan and Clinton, all of whom were basically on trial. None of them were, you know, forced to leave office, although Nixon did resign. But I think what's happening now, maybe it's just because I'm older now and I'm like understand it as an adult, what's really happening. I think this to me feels like one of the biggest crises we've ever had to face in our history. So so that's why doing the tarot astrology readings at this time is so important to me. But the Indiegogo campaign is important too. So there is some room for flexibility. But I don't know at this moment in time where I'll be, you know, cutting and shifting. And
right. So the political is something that you could cut back on
if necessary.
Yeah. Right. So there's want a point of clarification. Edgar Casey died before I was born, so I didn't get an Edgar Casey reading.
Oh, I meant an Edgar Casey style reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So the big takeaway I heard was, while you're on spring break, Indiegogo fills your world and takes up all that space, because it's an opportune time. You don't have school, you got to get it launched, and it's the beginning of the campaign that's the most critical to give it time. So that's your window.
Yeah.
So the other thing I heard was that there is some flex time in terms of you could cut back on the political astrology tarot videos if you need to support the Indiegogo campaign. And then you have other commitments that are ending. So I'm feeling pretty complete about this, because now there's clarity and there's conscious decision making that went on. So this was kind of a dive into the minutia, but I hope it illustrates some of the stuff that plays back and forth when it comes to time management.
Yeah, I think, you know, based on the 3 videos that we did in a row on time management, that I'm hoping, you know, people can understand something about why do we have trouble with time management. I would say that's because we're afraid to make decisions. We're afraid to make choices, because then we have to be responsible for the outcome, and that's scary.
Yeah. And we're also naive about what it takes to bring something from our imagination into physical existence. I think that's another big piece of it.
Yeah. And then I would say the second thing is, even when we do make choices about how to spend our time, we can often agonize about that and beat ourselves up about it, which just doubles, triples, or quadruples the amount of time and energy it actually takes to get something done. So, you know, if you've really kind of let that marinate in your consciousness, I think you'll get some pretty profound awareness coming to light in your own mind about the way you manage your own time, the choices that you make, and why you make those choices. And then we went through this process, both David and I, of looking at this as choices that we have made in the past, or that we're making now. And so you can see how, you know, how that process unfolds, what it looks like. So I hope that's been helpful to all of you. And I know it has been to me, because for me, time is just it's such a profound thing in this space-time continuum.
Right. I'd like to add one more thing, which is understanding your modality, the way you work, is really important. So for some people like me, when I do stuff, I immerse myself in a block of whatever the project is, and the rest of the world drops away and I focus on that. It fills my whole world. And then that's done, and then I go to another block. There are other people that have 4 or 5 things going at once, and they do a little bit of each one every day, and that's another very effective process. So part of it is just being aware of your nature and finding a way to work that's congruent with who you are, bringing us back to that identity thing I was talking about, rather than trying to enforce a structure on you that doesn't fit who you are because you think that's the way you're supposed to do it. So I just wanted to add that. I'm complete.
All right, so we're going to bring this to an end now. So thank you for subscribing to this channel and clicking like and ringing the bell for notifications and sharing with your social media and your friends and family. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below, and we will see you again next time. Bye.